Liberalization in the 1990s. In the early 1990s, the government embarked on a policy of liberalization, license a small number of the private banks. These came to be become known as a new generation tech-savvy banks, and including the Global Trust Bank, the first of the such a new generation bank to be set up, which later amalgamated with the Oriental Bank of the Commerce Industrial Bank (UTI) Bank, since renamed an Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, and HDFC Bank. This moves along with the rapid growth in the economy of India revitalizes the banking sector in India, which has been rapid growth with the strong contribution from all the three sectors of the bank, namely government banks, private banks, and foreign banks. The next stage of the Indian banking has set up with proposed relaxation of norm of the foreign direct investment. All foreign investors in banks may be given voting right that could exceed the present cap of the 10%. At present, it has gone up to the 74% with some restriction. The new policy shock of the banking sector in India completely. Bankers till this time were used to the 464 method, borrowed at 4%, lend at 6%, go home at 4% of functioning. The new wave of ushered and in modern outlook and tech savvy method of working for the traditional bank. All this led to the retail boom in India. People demanded more from their banks and received more. Current period change number of the nationalized bank. The Indian banking sector is broadly classified into scheduled banks and non-scheduled banks. All banks included in the second schedule to the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 are scheduled banks. The banks comprise scheduled commercialized bank and scheduled cooperative banks. Scheduled cooperative banks consist of scheduled state cooperative banks and scheduled urban cooperative banks. In the banks group wise classification, IDBI Banks Ltd is included in the category of the other public sector bank. By 2010, the supply product range and reach the banking in India was generally fairly mature, even though reach in rural India still remain a challenge for a private sector and foreign banks in equality of the assets and capital adequacy. Indian banks are considered to have a clean, strong, and transparent balance sheet relatively to the other banks in comparable economies in its region. The Reserve Bank of India is an autonomous body with minimal pressure from the governments. With the growth in the Indian economy expected to be strong for quite some time, especially in its service sector, the demand for the banking services, especially retailing banking, mortgage and investment services, are expected to be strong. One may also expect M&A takeovers and sales. In March 2006, the Reserve Bank of India allowed Warburg Pincus and to increase its stake in Kotak Mahindra Bank to 10%. This was the first time an investor was allowed to hold more than 5% in a private sector bank since the RBI announced norms in 2005 that any stake exceeding 5% in the private sector banks would need to be vetted by them. In recent years, critics have charged that the non-government owned banks are too aggressive in their loan recovery efforts in a connection with the housing, vehicles, and personal loans. There are past reports that the bank's loan recovery efforts have driven defaulting borrowers to suicide. By 2013, the Indian banking industry employed 1,175,149 employees and had a total of the 109,811 branches in India and 171 branches abroad, and managed an aggregate deposit of the 67,505 billion, 95 billion or $870 billion, bank credit of the $74 billion, and the net profit of the bank operating in the India was the 1027 billions against a tenure of the 9,148 billions, 130 billion or 120 billion for the financial year of 2013-14. Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana Hindi is a scheme for the comprehensive financial inclusion launched by the Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi in 2014. run by Department of the Financial Services, Ministry of Finance. On the inauguration day, 1.5 crore bank accounts were opened under this scheme. By 15 July 2015, 16.92 crore accounts were opened with the around 20,000 to 88.37 crores. 2.8 billions were deposited under the scheme, which also has an option for the opening new banks in accounts with the zero balance.